Alright, hi everyone. I don't know if I'm gonna post this on my channel or not. It might just be on my Patreon. But I wanted to talk about something that I feel is kind of important. I feel like for me as a person, it doesn't bother me if someone doesn't agree with me or if someone has a different opinion from me. So all of the videos I make sharing my opinion, I don't think make them to come off like oh, my opinion on everything is right or everyone else who thinks differently is wrong. It's literally just stating, for me, it's just I'm sharing my point of view and I'm only speaking for myself, right? But I guess I'm finding from some of the comments I get, especially I feel like the religion ones, I definitely made some atheists mad, and that wasn't my intention, but I guess I said something that they didn't like, which it was my opinion that some atheists make science their religion. And I think that really irked some people because the notion to them that science could be considered a religion to them is like, well, science is, objective facts, supposedly, right? Which I feel like is exactly what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to relay. But again, I think it's just my perspective on it is coming from a place of, my perspective is obviously coming from the bias of me being a religious person. And I say that in all my videos. I never claim to not be a biased individual. I feel like being unaware of your bias makes you pretty naive, in my opinion. So I am very vocal about the fact that my biggest bias is my religion and the fact that I'm a Christian and I believe the Bible and I believe in God. Like, that's the only thing that I feel like I will ever claim as like my biggest bias. Sure, there's probably other biases I may hold, but I'm aware that your bias, people have biases, right? So anyways, I made a lot of people mad in sharing my opinion that I felt like science was the religion of someone who's an atheist. Now, in saying that, was I trying to say every atheist is only solely believes in science? At the end of the day, I can't speak for like every individual atheist. I feel like you can never make, and I feel like when I make generalizations, I understand a generalization is never going to apply to everyone. That's why you're saying in general, right? You can never make like a blanket facts statement, but that's what makes it an opinion. It's not a fact. It's my opinion. It doesn't, I think that's where I feel like I feel like people misunderstand. Me stating my opinion is just me stating this is how I feel, this is how I think. Does that mean other people are going to feel the exact same way? Of course not. But sometimes I think people read more into my opinion than I even am. In a sense, like they see me stating my opinion as me putting like, I don't know. And I feel like that's the thing about what makes things an opinion. If it's an opinion, that means it's subjective to that individual person. An objective fact or truth is something that no one could deny. And so I think that's where people maybe think my opinion, like when I state my opinion, people, well, my opinion is what I believe is objective, right? Like if you're stating something that you believe, you should believe it objectively, right? You're not saying, well, I believe this, but I don't think it's actually true, because then what's the point of sharing your opinion? But what I'm saying is I understanding that what I believe is objective, other people might not believe is objective, but that is what I believe to be true, right? At the end of the day, there's only one actual thing that is true. Like objectively, everyone's opinion can't all be true, right? But a lot of the topics that I'm discussing are things that there's not a necessarily known objective truth, right? So when I talk about my belief in God, I believe that God objectively exists, right? But someone who's an atheist doesn't believe in God objectively. So how could, like, me stating my opinion that God exists and an atheist stating their opinion that they don't believe God exists? I always said this too, like, atheists don't have a belief, they have a disbelief. Like, they don't believe, and it's kind of like they're in a negative, essentially. Why is this car not going? Bruh. Y'all have heard me talk. My road, it's not even road rage. It's just like I get annoyed when people don't know how to drive. Don't drive the way I guess I want them to drive. Like, this lady could have turned, but it's whatever. Anyways, it's not a big issue. It's just a minor annoyance that I get sometimes. Anyways, when I talk about things that are opinions, there's no proven right answer if it's an opinion. Now, if you're stating an objective fact, then your opinion doesn't matter because what you're saying is objectively true. And sometimes I think when people listen to things that they can't necessarily prove objectively, I don't know. What am I trying to get at? I think it's like, if I state something that I guess is like, I'm not stating things that I guess maybe the reason people were offended is because the idea that science can be a religion is offensive to someone who wants nothing to do with a religion, I guess. But to me, it's just like everyone has a belief in something. Everyone puts their faith in something. And I feel like that was my point. Like, atheists have this idea that their disbelief is not a belief. But at the end of the day, you have a belief in something. It's just in a negative because you believe against something instead of believe for something. Because someone had commented, well, atheists don't necessarily believe God doesn't exist. I said, but you don't believe in God. So if you don't believe in God, then what do you believe? You believe in something, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, what you believe, if it's not the religion, where do you base all of your beliefs off of? Now, obviously, that's going to be a different thing for every individual person. But I feel like I personally have observed the standard that a lot of atheist scientists claim is that science is the answer for most of their, problems. I'm gonna see if I can order this out the window. I don't know. I'm at Krispy Kreme. I'm trying to get my birthday donuts, which I believe I just have to give them my phone number and they can do it. I might go and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Anyways, I feel like something being an opinion means it's an opinion. It's not necessarily a proven fact. However, your opinion on things should be something you believe objectively. Or maybe it's just like, this is how I think. So that's what I said in my response to some of the people, because I was just like, look, this is my perspective and I'm responding to this specific notion that I observed or heard someone who's an atheist say. Obviously, every atheist doesn't think or believe the same things, but I didn't get this idea from I wasn't making up that some I've heard atheists say, you don't have to believe in God because science exists. And this idea that science is, is the most objective thing you can believe in, essentially. because I pointed out that that's not always true with science, especially when you're talking about scientific theories and whatnot. But anyways, that was one. And then I guess when it comes to like political things, which this is my and I've made some videos that I don't know if I'm gonna keep on my channel or not, because I feel like maybe I opened this is just the thing. I feel like too many people are scared to voice their opinion for fear of people like canceling them and whatnot. And so it's just like everyone's aware of what is supposed to be the politically correct thing, politically correct idea. And I feel like a lot of people avoid speaking about certain topics because they don't want to, you know, create a tension or offend people. And that's, in my opinion, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's probably the smartest thing someone could do. However, I have also observed people being upset at, you know, one of their favorite content creators because they didn't speak about an issue that they felt like they should have spoken on. So I feel like you can't really win if you're trying to never offend anyone. Like, I don't think anyone should go out of their way to be offensive or try to, you know, be mean to people. Like, that's not, I'm not saying like you should just not care, but I'm saying it's like it's almost impossible to never offend someone ever in life. And when people who I feel like are trying to appease other people, because there's a lot of people who hold opinions strongly and, you know, think that they're always in the right and they are never wrong, whatever. I will say this, my opinions on things change. So I feel like it's not like I don't hold the same opinions I held when I was 17, when I was 20, when I was 25 even. You know, I can always state like my opinion on this thing changed. Like, opinions on things can change in someone's own life. So it's just like to negate or put someone down for holding an opinion as if their opinion can't change over time. If they maybe get new information that, you know, they might say, well, oh, I didn't know this. Like, honestly, it's like sharing opinions and being open to hearing other people's opinions gives you something to think about, gives you something that challenges your own beliefs so that you can actually maybe grow in what you believe or how you think about things. However, I think about things quite a lot. I am very, what's it called? In my head a lot. Sorry, y'all. My jaw has been hurting a lot. I don't know what's going on. That's why I'm like rubbing the side of my face. But anyways, it's just like opinions people hold are just opinions. They really can only impact you if you allow them to. And I mean that in a, like, to a certain extent, obviously. But anyways, I just think like, and I was talking to my friend about this too, who FaceTimed me. I was just like, you know, the only way to avoid conflict is honestly to just never interact with the person, never post anything on social media, never, like, just hide and be like a recluse essentially. Like, if you're so scared to say how you really feel about things, and that's why I find it refreshing when people aren't scared to voice their opinions in a lot of ways, even if it's not an opinion I agree with. It's just like the fact that you are can boldly state how you feel and not care who it offends is, in my opinion, just shows like that person is not scared. I mean, now sometimes you can be ignorant and stating certain things. Like, I will say this, I'm not sitting here claiming my opinions on things is the perspective of I'm the most all-knowing, intelligent person on the planet. Like, I only speak for myself. I don't know all the answers. I don't have all of the evidence, all of the proof of everything that exists in the world, right? I think it's hard to be an expert on many things, but you can be an expert on, maybe one specific topic. However, I think when it comes to religious beliefs, that's why apologetics exists. Apologetics is pretty much the format that people will argue their religious beliefs. I watch a lot of apologetics. So I feel like sometimes when I make these statements, people don't realize it's coming from that point of view versus, trying to antagonize or talk about every single thing. And honestly, I feel like that's the only point of contention I can say objectively about an atheist is that they don't have a belief in God. Everything else that an atheist believes, I can't really argue about, because that's all individualized to that each specific person. I honestly think too, though, from my personal perspective, I do think atheists, or I have watched videos where atheists will make blanket statements as well about Christians, or like what am I trying to say? It's like atheists will often offend Christians with their assertions or their beliefs or whatever, but then if you say something back to that, it's like, oh, well, you're not allowed to say that. You can't say that because you don't stand on XYZ whatever. So I just think, again, when it comes to opinions, you have to remember their opinions. If other people's opinions bothers you, I guess you should just never listen to other people. And I think like people who are bothered by people having different opinions do probably try to surround themselves only with people who think like them. And I feel like it creates a very closed-minded worldview. They're never challenged. And I feel like that's also why you can tell when someone's never actually talked to people who disagree with them, because they always have points that they're just regurgitating the things that they've been told instead of things that they've actually thought about, themselves. And I think, like, if you're gonna watch a debate or listen to arguments or listen to things like that, the best thing you can do is try to understand the other person's perspective and where they're coming from. Because if you are unwilling to or not able to understand that, I feel like you are going to never really be able to argue with the root of whatever you are debating that person against. And I will say this, I'm not someone who argues or debates people. I honestly don't even like watching a lot of debates on things, but I do listen to things sometimes to understand, to grow my point of view more. So it's just like, I like listening to people who don't agree with me so I can understand my point of view better. And in a lot of ways, it's like you grow more when you are able to understand other points of views. But anyways, I feel like when it comes to politics, religion, those are all pretty like taboo subjects that you're not supposed to talk about, because you can easily offend people, and obviously people have very strong feelings on those topics. So I do think too, I feel like the problem with me is that I literally make videos just talking about things all the time. Yapper. But you know what? That's why the Bible also says it's better to be silent than talk too much. Because if you talk too much, you show yourself to be foolish at times. And they're like, even the dumbest person when silent appears smart. That's a proverb that's in the Bible. And also very true. Anyways. That's all I really wanted to share. Is my every opinion that I have going to always be the objective truth? No, I can't speak. That's what makes it an opinion at the end of the day. It's an opinion because it's not objectively true or proven as far as, I don't know, society at large can speak about it. So anyways, that's why I honestly think that's why it's better for me personally to only speak about myself, or it's better for me to speak only from my point of view of what I believe than try to claim what someone else believes, because I feel like if you try to speak for other people, you're never going to speak for them correctly, right? And I don't like when other people try to speak for me. But like I said, it's just at the end of the day, if I share an opinion on something, anything, it's almost impossible for no one to ever be offended unless, I don't know, like I said, you can't live your life scared to offend people. But I also think you should be willing to understand other opposing sides of you. And also, I don't think you should hate people for having a different opinion, a difference of opinion than you. Like, as much as I talk about, I don't hate someone because they're an atheist. Like, I don't hate atheists. Like, that's, I hope doesn't come off like I just don't like someone because they're an atheist or anything like that. I also wouldn't not like someone because they don't share my same opinions. Or I feel like you shouldn't look down on people who just have different perspectives. However, I feel like that's the thing. I feel like I'm able to agree to disagree and respect someone, but some people don't have that ability, it seems. And you just never know when you're going to be you just never know when you're going to come across someone who's like unable to see outside of themselves. I also think too, though, I have tried to understand an atheist perspective, like trying to just understand why someone's an atheist, why. And when I watch the videos of people explaining why, I feel like it usually, in my opinion, boils down to a misunderstanding of God, or they have an idea of God being, someone who is, I guess that's the same thing. It's just like I said, I've tried to put myself in other people's shoes, and I've tried to understand that perspective. And to me, like I said, after trying to understand that perspective, I still feel like I couldn't be an atheist. There's times when I've doubted God's existence, right? I feel like if you never question your faith, or you never question what you believe, you don't really grow in that belief more. But honestly, after questioning things and understanding, now, have I studied all religions? No, I have not. I've watched videos though of people who've studied all religions. I feel like listening to other people's testimonies and stories, which is something I love to do, does help me understand, those other religions. Like, if I listen to someone who was a Muslim, or was a Jew, or was whatever, like, listening to people's stories, I feel like is something that I've always enjoyed doing. I've mentioned how I like watching documentaries. I just think it's I don't know, maybe for me, because like I said, I'm biased to my belief in God. It's hard for me to understand sometimes, because I'm like, I what's the best way to explain it? It's like I understand why people don't want to believe in God, or people who don't like the idea of God. But I think it really just comes down to it being just, it's almost impossible to argue with a naysayer or a negative, because it's like you can't argue against an atheist with what they believe. You're arguing against what they don't believe, and it's just like you can't force someone to believe something they don't want to believe at the end of the day. So it's like no matter what you say, it's just like you can't argue with doubt. Like doubt at the end of the day is going to exist in that person's mind for as long as they want it to. It's just like the burden of proof is really not on, my opinion. I have to prove to an atheist that God exists. It's really, there's nothing you can say to make someone not doubt you. It really just boils down to that person doesn't want to believe. They don't want to believe. And I feel like that's what the conclusion I've come to. And even after watching, I think his name is Alex O'Connor's video, where he basically said, I tried so hard to believe in God. And I just watched it. I'm like, I just don't think he really tried. Like, he says he's tried, but that doubt, like, you can't, I don't even know how to explain it. I might have to come back to this because I've been talking for too long. But basically, you can't make the negative of something go away. Sorry. Without adding, like, I don't know. Think about it. Like, I have a belief. I'm at +1. You have a negative. You're at -1. For a -1 to get to 0, you have to add 2. So it's just like the people who say, like, oh, I'm not biased against God, or I don't hate God, I just don't believe he exists because, quote unquote, there's not enough evidence. I feel like have the doubt. They have so much doubt, right? You can't. Doubt is not something that you can change for someone else, right? Like, I took away that person's doubt. Like, you can't really do that for that person. That person has to be willing to, I don't know. I really just think it just comes down to, like, if someone wanted to believe in God, they would. The only thing stopping someone from believing in God is, at the end of the day, themselves. And that, I feel like, is just always going to be true. It's just, that is always going to be true. There's nothing that I could say to convince someone of something they don't want to believe. And I feel like that is just what I've concluded from a lot of the videos of atheists I have watched. You can't convince someone of something they don't want to be convinced of. They don't want to believe in God, and that's why they never will. But I don't think it's because there's a lack of proof or evidence. I think the evidence for God is actually pretty astounding. But someone who doesn't want to believe is just going to say, well, I don't believe it. And that's all they have to say is, I don't, doubt, I don't believe. You can't argue with that. And I think that's how I'm going to end my video.